Today on Grid Live Pre-Race, NASCAR is racing at Sin City, Las Vegas. Who's going to gamble and take the win and advance to the playoffs? The Russian Grand Prix for Formula One. How will that turn out? Will Lewis Hamilton get win number 91? And MotoGP in Spain. Grid Live is on the air right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Special hello to all our listeners on the Ultimate Sports Radio Network. Joe Samaniego here, along with Jessica from Paddock Insight and Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. We got a busy weekend of racing. We'll start with Kobe and NASCAR.
Yes, big weekend in NASCAR. It's the first race for the round of 12. We have Las Vegas, Talladega, and the Charlotte Roval in this round. And a win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway tomorrow night means no must-win situation at Talladega and the Roval. So a lot of those. So if whoever wins tomorrow night locks themselves into the next round, then they'll be able to sleep well heading into Talladega and the Charlotte Roval. Joe, coming into the race, how important is it to have a good result in Sin City, knowing that Talladega and the Charlotte Roval are up next on the schedule?
It is crucial to try to get a good run. Mainly just go out there and get a win. We see the point standings. It is really close in the playoffs. Taking a quick glance at it. Here it is. Look at that. If you're Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, you're all in really good shape. But then once you get to Joey Logano, he's only 17 points above the cut line. That's positions, essentially. So it's really critical to try to get a win because Talladega, it is just a wild card race. It's going to be really hard to get a win. And the big thing, of course, getting the win at Talladega, if you get that, wonderful. You're looking great. But if you don't get that win, you're in big trouble because then it's the Roval. So it's very imperative to get that win this weekend in Las Vegas. It's the best opportunity where the best car, great pit stops, you can put yourself in and get that win.
Yeah, it is really crazy because it seems like in this round, Las Vegas Motor Speedway is the only normal race. Then you got two wild cards at Talladega and the Charlotte Roval, so you definitely want to make sure that you have a great points day and try to win at Las Vegas in order to avoid potential trouble at Talladega and the Roval, because I feel like that anything can happen at those two tracks. And one driver not in a must-win situation is Kevin Harvick. And right now, Harvick is essentially a race ahead in the point standings. And if he finishes in the top 10 and nothing majors happens the next 2 weeks, he should be perfectly fine moving forward to go to the round of 8. How much of a hurting would Harvick do to the field if he wins at Las Vegas?
It would just be, in my opinion, if Kevin Harvick was to win Las Vegas, I think he's going to go on and win the championship. If he gets that win today, those bonus points, that just puts everybody in a hard spot. Even Denny Hamlin. Yes, Denny Hamlin could still advance to the round of 8 just by all the points he has. But then he knows Kevin Harvick's most likely going to assure himself a spot in the Final Four. 3 races. If Denny Hamlin doesn't win one of those 3 races in the round of 8, he could be going home before Homestead. This is just really going to put everybody in a really bad spot if Kevin Harvick gets that win. And just, in my opinion, if he wins in Las Vegas, he is clearly the favorite to win the championship, and I think he's going to get that championship.
I think it's certainly Kevin Harvick's championship to lose. You remember years ago when Jimmy Johnson he was just dominating at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and they called that track at the time, it's called Lowe's Motor Speedway. They call it Jimmy's house. In my opinion, Phoenix Raceway, that is Kevin Harvick's house. And with the championship race being at Phoenix, I truly feel like that it'll be a major letdown if Kevin Harvick is unable to win this championship, because I really do think that all of the cars are falling right into his place. And the driver you mentioned, Denny Hamlin, who many consider to be one of the favorites to take the fight to Kevin Harvick for the title, made this big announcement on Monday night that he's going to be owning a NASCAR Cup Series team next year with NBA legend Michael Jordan in 2021, with Bubba Wallace driving for the team. And lately, Denny Hamlin's kind of fallen a step behind Kevin Harvick. Do you think Hamlin will rebound soon and bring the fight to Harvick now that the news is out? And do you think that trying to get this deal lined up with Michael Jordan and Bubba Wallace, do you think this served as a major distraction to Denny Hamlin?
I do think there has to be some element where it was a distraction. We know it's been a couple of weeks when Denny Hamlin tweeted that photo of him wearing the Air Jordan shirt. And I truly believe, that must have been before going to some sort of big meeting to finalize that deal. The anticipation, being around the rumors, that has to be a very big distraction, just waiting to get this release. Now that it's out, we know what's going to happen with Denny Hamlin. We know what's going to happen with Bubba Wallace. I think it's going to be something where he could really just go out there, focus, and try to win. Las Vegas, he didn't run too well this last time, but if he could try to do a good run, show that, okay, you're finishing in the top 5 like we're seeing him do so often this year, I think that's a good step towards the right direction, especially when we enter Talladega. I know Talladega is a wild card, but when it comes to restrictor plates, Denny Hamlin has won at Daytona 500, especially the last few times. He could easily win there.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin is certainly one of the top super speedway drivers in NASCAR right now, and behind Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin in the standings, we have Team Penske drivers Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski was the only driver besides Kevin Harvick to win in the last round, and Joey Logano won at Las Vegas earlier this year in pre-pandemic times, and their teammate Ryan Blaney is unfortunately out of the playoffs right now after getting off to a hot start. He's really cooled off over time. And also Matt DiBenedetto, who's a Penske affiliate, Wood Brothers Racing, also eliminated from the playoffs last week. Do you think Ryan Blaney and Matt DiBenedetto will be running up front with Keselowski and Logano now that the pressure is off?
Possibly. The hard part, of course, we see so often when it comes to the playoff drivers, they rise to the top when it comes time for the playoffs. I know Ryan Blaney in Las Vegas the last time, he had a really strong, solid run, but in a late race caution, hitting on that late race caution essentially cost him the win. Logano, Benedetto, a bunch of other drivers, they all stayed out, gambled, and then we had that late caution that I believe the race ended after they had taken the white flag and then the caution came out. But definitely, I think they're going to look pretty good, especially the Benedetto, Blaney, their Penske power. Will they be up front? I don't see them contending for the lead. Maybe a top 10, but that's really hard.
For Ryan Blaney, considering how the season started, I think at this point the 12 team will just look to try to finish the season on a strong note. It was really crazy because earlier in the season, it seemed like Ryan Blaney was going to be a contender for the championship because that team was absolutely red hot. However, after the shutdown happened with the pandemic, it seemed like the team kind of lost its momentum and everything seemed to trend downward. And when we got to the playoffs, that team just completely fell apart and they did not look like the same team. So I feel like that heading into 2021, Ryan Blaney just needed to try to end the season on a positive note. And for Matt DiBenedetto, I feel like the pressure is certainly there right now because he could be driving for his jobs because the deadline is coming up in a few days. We'll find out if Matt DiBenedetto's option on his contract is going to be exercised, and if it is, he'll return next year, or could somebody else be driving for the Wood Brothers next year? So certainly, I feel like the pressure is still going to be there for Matt DiBenedetto for a little while until his fate is known. And we're going to have more NASCAR coverage later in the program, but for now, we're going to turn to Jessica for MotoGP coverage.
That's right, because MotoGP stopped at Barcelona for the Catalan Grand Prix. Here is a look at the track map, because we have 2A7 5 miles, then we have 4, 6 to 7 kilometers and 14 corners. The long front stretch to top speed will be a big factor in staying up the front. Now, Joey, does they give any riders a particular advantage?
I do see that front stretch giving a particular advantage, especially to some of the Yamaha riders. I know Yamaha, they seem to have some of the higher top end speed. They were looking really good. The other team I see that could be an advantage is also Ducati. Ducati had a good, strong showing at Austria. Austria definitely is one of those tracks where the high horsepower was a big factor. So I think those two will have a big advantage when it comes to high speeds.
Viñales won the last race, was the first race week of the year. We only have one repeat winner, and was Fabio Quartararo back on the first weekend. Join cover another different winner or repeat winner this Sunday.
I'm going to say we're going to have another different winner. When we get to pick a winner, I'll share that pick, but I think we're going to have another one, and it's going to be a surprise, my pick, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, I also agree with Joe. I think we're going to see a different winner as well, and certainly been an interesting MotoGP season since Marc Marquez went out to his unfortunate injury, and hopefully at some point we want to get Marc Marquez back on the racetrack because Honda certainly misses him. And Jessica, here's my question for you: since we've had so many different winners this year, the championship is very close. Does this favor the traditional favorites like Dovizioso, Vinales, or surprise winners like Quartararo, Bender, and Oliveira?
It will be favoring those are apart from the championship because it's not regular winners get victories, but do not maintain a streak or at least beginning among the top five or have some fault. Those who go in the first places take advantage of the 18 points. And now let's take a look for the top 10 starters after the qualifying today. And we have the pole position, Franco Morbidelli, the Italian guy, then Fabio Quartararo, third, Valentino Rossi, fourth, Jack Miller, 5, Maverick Viñales, 6, Joan Zarco, 8, Paul Espargaro, 7, Paul Espargaro, 8, Joan Mir, 9, Danilo Petrucci, and 10, we have Brad Binder. Kobe. Rossi got third in qualifying, is joining Franco Morbidelli in the Petronas Yamaha next year. How motivating is it for any racer to perform knowing that next season they have a ride secured?
Oh, certainly. I think it's very motivating, and while it hasn't really been the season that Valentino Rossi has wanted, I think it's getting closer and closer to help to improve in his performance so he can get up there and contend for wins, because we all know with the historic career that Valentino Rossi has had, we know certainly what he's capable of.
Definitely when it comes to being capable. A question for you, Jessica. I know Marc Marquez this week has said he expected more from Quartararo this year, referring to his struggling season so far in Austria. Is this Marc Marquez just observing, sharing his opinion, or is he trying to play mind games and get into the head of Quartararo?
Yes, I think he's playing a mind game on Fabio Marquez. Know that he will be his direct rival next season, as he will be on the official Yamaha. Marc wants to maintain his position as a champion in any fight, but regardless of what he says, the important thing is how Fabio takes those statements. See if he lets them pass or only thinks about working to improve. So let's see, missing from the top 10 is the lead Dovizioso starting in 17, with Viñales and Milburn both in the top 10. Joy, who will have the points lead after Sunday?
Oh man, who's going to have the points lead after Sunday's race? That is such a hard question. I know Dovizioso, he seems to come up from the back towards the front, but I don't see him getting towards the top 5. If Mir's up there, he seems to be a little bit more consistent. If he can stay up there, if Fabio falls back, as well as Vinales, he could be the points leader. It's really so close. I don't know who's going to be the point leader, but definitely I think whoever's going to finish ahead, since it's so close, will be the points leader.
That's right. MotoGP is this Sunday for the Catalan GP.
Definitely it's going to be an exciting race. We encourage everyone to be sure to check it out. MotoGP is on NBC Sports. Now going back to some NASCAR coverage. Of course, NASCAR in Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the weekend. All the talk has been around Kevin Harvick, one of the 4 Stewart-Haas racing drivers. Cole Custer, he made the playoffs with a surprise win at Kentucky. He's already out of the playoffs, didn't advance out of the first round. His 2 teammates, Aric Almirola and Clint Bowyer, both of them are right now in the red. They are facing elimination. When it comes to Stewart-Haas Racing, is Kevin Harvick really carrying that team? Or is this something where Kevin Harvick, they all have good equipment, with Kevin Harvick just getting the deal done each and every week?
Yo, without a doubt, Kevin Harvick is certainly carrying this team. And looking at the entire Stewart-Haas driver lineup, I think a lot of people are anticipating changes coming in recent years. I know Eric Almirola just signed a contract extension, so he's going to be there. And then the jury is still out on what's going to happen with Clint Boyer moving forward, because I know a lot of people earlier in the season, in silly season, they thought that maybe Kyle Larson could take that seat, but but then it seems like Clint Boyer could be returning, and they also have the option to promote Chase Briscoe from the Xfinity Series as well. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with Stewart-Haas Racing. But I think for now, Kevin Harvick is certainly carrying that team, and I'm sure moving forward in the future, Stewart-Haas Racing will certainly want to have more of his drivers in victory lane. I think Cole Custer is gonna develop just nicely, and he's gonna be all right the long term. And I do think we'll see Chase Briscoe with the organization at some point too in the future. So I do think that while Kevin Harvick has currently been the main one dominating the Stewart-Haas Racing, I think the future is certainly bright with Cole Custer, and especially if they keep Chase Briscoe within the organization.
Yeah, those are two upcoming drivers. I think they'll be great additions to Stewart-Haas Racing. Of course, one of the former Stewart-Haas Racing drivers is Kurt Busch. He is still in the playoffs, but he is in the bottom of the playoff grid. And of course, his brother Kyle Busch is in the red too. Kyle, still no wins. Very few playoff points, just not the season at all. And of course, the last week after Bristol, he gave a press conference a lot of people will remember, and it wasn't because of like an optimistic attitude, but more of a negative attitude, even stating that he anticipates being eliminated after the round of 8. When it comes to the Busch brothers, especially Kyle, is Kyle in trouble being eliminated after this round?
Actually, I don't think that Kyle Busch is going to get eliminated in this round. I think he's going to make it to the round of 8, but I don't see him going to the championship 4 this year. But with Kyle Busch having that type of attitude is, in my opinion, it's not really the best if you want to do well. People have always told me throughout my life, if you say negative things, the negative things will happen. You need to try to go in with a positive mindset and try to be optimistic. And it's definitely not good for team morale when you're heading into the next round of the playoffs, saying, we're getting eliminated already. And in my opinion, that's certainly not a good mindset to be in, especially when you're the defending champion. So I think that if Kyle Busch wants to make a deep run in the playoffs and try to put not having won a cup race behind him this season, I think that he really needs to put all the negativity aside and just keep pushing forward.
I agree with you, especially he's a defending champion. Hearing him talk after Bristol, he didn't sound like a defending champion to me. He sounded like somebody that is already sort of given up, and that's not going to win a championship. I do think he's going to get eliminated at this round. I just don't see where Las Vegas, I don't see him getting a win there. He could get a good run, but I do think that's where we're going to see some of the other drivers in the playoffs get good runs. Talladega, well, he could get a win. So could anybody else in the field. As Larry McReynolds would say, if your car cranks up, you could win at Talladega. And then the Roval, Chase Elliott is going to be a favorite there, but still, that is going to be such a crazy race. Nobody's really safe. Not even Chase Elliott, even though a lot of people see him as a favorite since he won there last year and has won the last road course races. Now, we talked about the 3 Stewart-Haas Racing drivers in the playoffs. We talked about the 2 Penske drivers and the Busch brothers. The other drivers in the playoffs that we haven't talked about, Bowman, Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, and Martin Truex Jr. Now, of course, Chase Elliott won at the Roval last year. He's won the last few road courses. Truex, he would have won at the Roval too, but Jimmy Johnson sort of didn't allow that to happen in the first year of the Roval. Both of them are looking pretty good in the playoffs. But when it comes to Alex Bowman and Austin Dillon, both of them only have 1 win each this season. And of course, Austin Dillon looked really good in this last round of 16 to advance to the round of 12. Will one of these drivers of the 4 that I had just mentioned be eliminated? And you think, who would it be?
Out of all of those drivers that you mentioned, I think it's going to be Austin Dillon getting eliminated. And yeah, Austin Dillon has already advanced much further in the playoffs than many expected. And I think that Richards Racing certainly has a bright future. Him and Tyler Reddick are coming along really well. The program is really improving, but I do think that the round of 12 is going to be the end of the road for Austin Dillon.
I do think it's going to be the end of the road for Austin Dillon. Alex Bowman, I do think he needs to step up his performance. I would say, ever since the pandemic, when we started coming back, he hasn't really been making much noise. I know we saw a little bit of life in the last round of racing, but I think that team really needs to improve a lot more for any potential to advance into the next round. Of course, the NASCAR Playoffs, it's going to be at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's going to be a really, I think, intense race. Not in the aspect where it'll be wild and crazy, but definitely everyone knows this is their best chance to secure a spot in the next round. Speaking about the next round, we got the next round of Formula One, the Russian Grand Prix, and Jessica will lead us through the Formula One coverage.
Yes, Formula One had a lot of news this week come out. Next year, a new CEO will lead the series. Aston Martin will bring a new green livery for the current pink cars, and this weekend, Russian Grand Prix for Formula One. Guys, go enjoy Will Lewis Hamilton win and get another win and another record.
I certainly think that Lewis Hamilton is certainly going to be the driver to beat once again this weekend. It looks like Red Bull had a few issues early in practice, and Max Verstappen he was fine in qualifying, and then we had Valtteri Bottas up there as well. I really thought that Russia might be a great chance for Valtteri Bottas to get up there and get a win for Mercedes.
The Russian Grand Prix is going to be really interesting. We saw in qualifying today, Lewis Hamilton, his first hot lap wasn't scored because he went beyond the track limit. When he was about to go start his second lap, we had the red flag because of Sebastian Vettel's crash. He had to go on soft tires, so he's going to be starting to race on soft tires. And he said after he secured the pole, he feels he's going to be at disadvantage, especially with Bottas and Max Verstappen behind him on the preferred set of tires. So I do think he could have a good shot at getting the 91st victory. He is really going to have to work hard at it, especially since he started on the soft tires.
Of course, a win will stay. Schumacher got his win with Ferrari. Ferrari is again off the pace, looking at the top 10 starters for this Sunday. We have first Lewis Hamilton, then Max Verstappen, third Valtteri Bottas, fourth Sergio Perez, in number 5 Daniel Ricciardo, 6 Carlos Sainz, 7 Esteban Ocon, 8 Lando Norris, 9 Pierre Gasly, and 10 Alex Albon. So definitely looking at the best of the rest, Sergio Perez is starting for Joy. Who will be the rest? Who will be the best of the rest?
I think it will be Sergio Perez. I know when it comes to looking at all the starters, Sergio is starting fourth. He needs to perform really well, and I think he feels like he has a point to prove that he deserves a ride next year in Formula One. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Sergio Perez looks. I know the McLarens were a little bit off. I think the biggest threat to Sergio Perez will be Daniel Ricciardo in that Renault, but I do think Perez is going to get the job done and come behind the the Mercedes and the Red Bull. Jessica, with Mercedes having won every race in Russia since Formula One started coming back here in 2014, since Max Verstappen is starting second, does Red Bull have a chance of beating Mercedes Sunday at the Russian Grand Prix?
Only if Mercedes has some kind of problem. We saw it with the victory of Pierre Gasly for the suspension of Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes is in another level. No one doubts that Verstappen has only been able to beat Bottas, and it's difficult, if not impossible, but for someone to take the championship from Mercedes. And now, after the Russian Grand Prix, only 7 races left. Mathematically, everyone is still eligible to win the championship. Kobe, realistically, how many drivers do you think have a chance to at the championship?
Right now, I think it's only a one-man race, and that's Lewis Hamilton. Honestly, I really don't see anybody else taking the fight to Lewis Hamilton for the championship. I think at the end of the season, he's gonna be holding up the trophy once again.
Good. Then Russian Grand Prix is tomorrow 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Western, early morning for you, especially with Australia SuperCars the night before. Kobe, what's the latest on the SuperCars?
Oh yeah, down in Australia, we have 2 races remaining before the Bathurst 1000, and the championship might be decided. And the first race of the weekend is over, and Scott McLaughlin won from pole position, and this was his 12th victory of the season. We got Jamie Whincup second in the point standings, came home 10, and Scott McLaughlin currently holds a 263-point lead over Jamie Whincup. Can Jamie Whincup close the gap, or is it game over?
It is just about game over. I know, looking at the points, we're now got the 2 races remaining plus Bathurst 1000. So of course, with Bathurst being a 300-point race, then the 2, that's only 500 points. So when it comes down to it, once we finish this race, if Whincup has a lead of more than 300 points, it's just about game over. But the big thing, he has to finish ahead of Scott McLaughlin, but not just by like 1 or 2 spots. He needs Scott McLaughlin to have a bad race. If Scott McLaughlin finishes outside the top 10, Whincup needs to be in the top 5. That's the best bet for Whincup, but I do think it's starting to become near the beginning of the end for Whincup's championship hopes.
And it's really crazy because we went from 5 with a mathematical shot at the championship to 3, and Cam Waters needs Scott McLaughlin to not finish the next 3 races. Score 0, not score, and Waters needs to win the next 3 races, and Scott needs to finish the next race in order to eliminate Cam Waters. Very doubtful that Cam Waters is going to really have a shot at this. However, Scott McLaughlin does have 2 races where he did not start. How does Scott approach the next 2 races?
For his approach, he is such in a good spot right now. He could just really focus on running the race he needs to run. Go out there, set a fast lap in qualifying. Go out there, just try to get the win. If you're second or third, you're still in really good shape. This is much better than a situation where if we were right now, say at the last race, if we were at the Bathurst 1000, he'll be really focused right now on where Whincup is, ensuring that he finishes ahead. So he's in a really comfortable spot right now, and that's a big advantage for him, especially this race. If he could grow that lead by the 3rd race, he could just about have this championship all wrapped up.
Yeah, we're gonna have 2 SuperCars races on Sunday in Australia. Then we're gonna have a break until the weekend of October 16th through October 18th, when we're gonna have the Bathurst 1000, 300 points on the line, and we'll be following to see if Scott McLaughlin can also reclaim the grid ranking lead.
Now, it's going to be really interesting to see if Scott McLaughlin can reclaim the grid ranking lead. One of the big things, of course, too, along with the grid ranking, we have the Grid World Motorsport League. They made a big announcement this week with all but one of their series in the World Motorsport League completing the 5-race minimum. They're going back to crowning a champion in 2020. Originally, with the pandemic, there had been concerns that not every series would be able to run throughout the 2020 year. However, with all the series except one achieving that goal, the Grid World Motorsport League will have a 2020 champion. You could definitely follow the World Motorsport League at grid_WML on Twitter. Now back to some NASCAR. Last year in this race, we only had 4 cautions in the Vegas race. Now, of course, it was in the first round. Most races this year have had over 6 cautions for the NASCAR Cup Series. When it comes to Sunday's race at Vegas, do you anticipate it's going to have more or less than 6 cautions? And how do you set up a car for that?
Oh, I think we're certainly going to see more than 6 cautions. I feel like it's different this time because before it was just early in the season. Now we have a championship on the line, and I certainly think that we're going to see more intense action as we get closer to the end. Drivers are going to be given a lot less space on the track, and it's going to be very competitive out there because right now winning is more important than anything, and those drivers will want to put themselves in a great position, and you definitely want to roll off the truck. Well, I know we've really talked about it a lot this season with no practice and qualifying. You need to hit it right from the start, and if you miss it, it could certainly be a long day.
It could definitely be a long day, and one of the big things, of course, if you're anticipating a lot more cautions and a shorter run, traditionally this year especially, stage 3, that is where we see the most cautions. So you may want to have a car set up for the short runs. You might suffer in the first stage, second stage, especially if we get a long run. But definitely that third stage, if there's going to be a lot of cautions following that pattern, if you can have a car set up for the short runs, you're in really good shape. Now, earlier this year, of course, we did run on Las Vegas during the West Coast Wing. The top 10 had some interesting finishers. For start, Matt DiBenedetto, second place. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., third place. Jimmy Johnson, fifth place. Bubba Wallace, sixth place. And Ty Dillon got 10th place. Now, of course, now we are here in the playoffs. Do you see any of these non-playoff drivers or another non-playoff driver finishing in the top 10 tomorrow?
Well, two drivers that really come to my attention. I do think that Matt DiBenedetto can certainly finish in the top 10. I remember back in the early spring, DiBenedetto used some strategy to get up there and earn all that track position to get that second place finish. So I certainly think that he can do that. And also Jimmy Johnson as well. Jimmy Johnson still looking to go out a winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, or at least end his full-time NASCAR Cup career on a positive note. So if I had to pick two drivers from that group to finish in the top 10 tomorrow night, I think it could certainly be Matt DiBenedetto and Jimmy Johnson.
Those are two drivers that are capable of doing it. I think it's going to be all playoff drivers. I got a hunch that this race, especially, we might have a lot of cautions, but I don't think it's going to be so much the playoff drivers. I do think we're going to have 10 out of the 12 playoff drivers finishing in the top 10. Now, of course, with that said, NASCAR tomorrow is going to be a really intense race, last race of that round of the playoffs. And with that said, it's also time for everyone's favorite game, pick a winner.
Oh yeah, and starting with my NASCAR pick, I think we're gonna see a sweep. It's gonna be Joey Logano going into victory lane, and he's gonna win both races at Las Vegas in 2020.
When it comes to Las Vegas, Joey Logano, he was looking good. I'm gonna go with his teammate Brad Keselowski getting the win.
Good, and now time to pick a winner in MotoGP. Again, it's really difficult to pick a winner in this championship, but I have to say, if I have to pick a winner, I have to say Franco Morbidelli.
And I'm gonna go bold here with my pick, and I'm gonna say Valentino Rossi finally gets back into victory lane.
With that said, that was my pick as well. I think Valentino starting third. The news that he's got to ride next year, extra motivation, and I think he's gonna get that surprise win as well.
Now time to Supercars. Join two races in this race. Pick a winner each one.
This next race, I think it's gonna be Scott McLaughlin. I see Scott McLaughlin getting that. With that, on the final race, I think it's gonna be his teammate Fabian Coulthard getting the win. So it's gonna be a Penske sweep for the entire Penske team.
Yeah, I also think it's going to be a Penske sweep this weekend, but I don't think his teammate's going to be the guy. I think Scott McLaughlin's going to win the next two races this weekend, and he's going to sweep the entire weekend. And then looking at the entire championship, Scott McLaughlin's going to become a 3-time champion.
And now Formula One, I have to say Lewis Hamilton. I don't have another winner for this season. So, Kobe and Joy, pick a winner in Formula One.
I think when it comes to Formula One race, knowing Lewis Hamilton's non-preferred tires, I anticipate Valtteri Bottas is going to get the win. I think he's going to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton, going to get that preferred strategy. Lewis Hamilton is going to have to work really hard to get a win, but I think it's going to be Valtteri Bottas, especially since he's going to have that preferred tires at the start of the race.
Yeah, and Russia's always been good to Valtteri Bottas, but yeah, and I really like your pick, Joe. However, I'm gonna go with the safe pick once again. I think that it's gonna be Lewis Hamilton winning this weekend. And while we're talking about open wheel racing, I wanted to share with you the results of the F2 feature race that took place earlier today. We had Mick Schumacher winning, and then completing the podium, we had Yuki Tsunoda and Callum. And then looking at the Formula 2 point standings, Mick Schumacher currently leads the championship standings with 186 points and an 18-point lead over fellow Ferrari Junior driver Callum, and Christian Lagarde and Yuki Tsunoda are third and fourth on the standings, 41 points behind. So if they want to try to catch Mick, they have a lot of work to do, and Schumacher really seems to be making his case for a Formula One drive next season, likely with Alfa Romeo. And unfortunately, that's the end of our program for today. And want to remind you, be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting much closer to 100 subscribers. Such a great milestone for us here at the Grid Network. Back in May when Joe and I started this up, we had no idea that it would lead to this, and we're just really excited as we near 100 subscribers. Also want to remind you to visit our Patreon page as well. Feel free to support us any way you want, and we're also on Discord. Come chat with us. It's a lot of fun. Love interacting with the fans and talking about motorsports and other things. And thank you if you are listening to USRN, the Ultimate Sports Radio Network. And make sure you visit Jessica at Paddock Inside for MotoGP and Formula One coverage. And thank you to all of our viewers for watching our program and continuing to support us. For Joe Samniego at Grid Network and Jessica at Paddock Inside, I'm Kobe Lambert at the Podium Finish. Enjoy all of the racing this weekend.